Welcome to the Third Man Up podcast, your one-stop shop for the serious and not so serious side of Australian sports. Join the lads as they discuss what's going on in the world of sport and preview all of this weekend's action. Now, here are your hosts, AFL media superstar Peter Spider Everitt and the world-class amateur Brody Burrows.
For the first time all year, all footy teams in the AFL have gotten a win. I'm your co-host, Brody Burrows. With me, as always, the one and only Peter Spider Everitt. How are we doing, Spide?
Oh, look, yeah, top of the wars. Yeah, you're right. Every team's had a win, and how happy are you with it?
Yeah, not very.
A great start. They've let you down 2 weeks in a row, haven't they?
Hawthorn, North Melbourne, West Coast. I don't know what to think anymore, but in saying that, it is good. They needed a win. The AFL needed North Melbourne to win, let's be honest. And maybe that's why they gave Harley Reid 2 weeks, because they knew if he played, there was no chance of North Melbourne getting the win.
Yeah, it was interesting because even off the back of the North Melbourne win, you sit there and, Harley Reid not around, and we know, Sam Darcy's gone as well. Well, North Melbourne's actually got all the favourites now for the Rising Star. So, they're going to win something this year, even if it is just by luck. But, I reckon even saying this weekend, who's North got this weekend? They
got the Pies.
Yeah, and if they don't run out at .05, I'll be really disappointed. Surely Clarko would have gone, boys. And I remember I said the same with Simpson. Clarko because I remember Clarko actually told us once to do that. He said, when we were at Hawthorn, he said, "Alrighty, boys," he said, "go out, do whatever you want. Go as hard as you can." But everyone had to be in bed. Everyone had to be home by 10 o'clock at night. That was the rule.
Yep. No,
so
that's why he won 3 premierships.
Yeah, so we went hard as we could, and everyone was home by 10 o'clock. So the next day, and a lot of us really shouldn't have driven. You drive to training the next day, and I can still remember Danny Jacobs. He rocked in. He was green, he was like Shrek from Fiona. Fiona from Shrek. He was like green as, and we're all crook, and we all sat in the big meeting room there at Waverley Park at Hawthorn, and Clark walked in. He goes, "Right, who had a crack yesterday?" Yeah. He goes, "Okay, anyone out after 10 o'clock?" We're like, "Nah, everyone home by 10. He goes, "Right, then you can all go home."
Oh, good on
So,
you.
yeah, gave us a day off, and we all went home, and, it was fantastic. So I'll never forget that. But, so hopefully he did the same with the North boys.
Might as well get into the games from last week straight away. And I want to kick off with Richmond just beating the Crows at Adelaide Oval, 79-71. And I'll tell you what, mate, Adelaide in all sorts of trouble. Crows once again beating around the clearances, and all credit has to go to Richmond. They're as injury struck as anyone. And right now, Adelaide Crows, you wouldn't want to be a fan of theirs. They're turning on each other in the media, and troubling signs.
I'll be totally honest with you. Even 6 weeks ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you never wanted to be a fan of Adelaide Crows. So it doesn't matter. Don't just bring it in this week. But no, you're right. Don't forget, though, Richmond did bring in some guns. They brought Taranto back, I think Pressier and a couple of others. So they're their ball winners. That's where they really generate the ball from. But as you say, Adelaide should have still won. They should have still got over the line. And big questions asked. Where to now for Adelaide? Where do they go? Where they... And you get a pretty good look at them. You see them every week, pretty closely. But did they overestimate? Did they overrate themselves at the end of last year? Did they go? They got Isaac Rankin, but was he enough? They thought he was going to be the guy that brought it all together. Well, they just missed out on the finals by a kick, which some people say they should have made it. But then, are they ahead of themselves?
Well, I look back to 2014. I think they've actually only got one first-round draft pick correct. And I actually talked about this on radio on Saturday morning. And so they had the chance to select Jordan Dawson back in, I think it was a 2015 or 16 draft. They instead decided to go with Jordan Gallucci from Melbourne, who's no longer on the list in the first round. And obviously, Jordan Gallucci, Victorian boy, Jordan Dawson was playing some great footy in the Sandford at that stage. And fast forward 5 years, Crows have eventually given up 2 first-round picks for Jordan Dawson. It's all in the recruiting. you look at the top 4 sides in the competition right now, whether it's Collingwood, and they've all had that 1 year where you could say they absolutely nailed that draft.
Yeah.
You can't say that about Adelaide. Adelaide are just so weak. Their bottom 6 is as bad as North Melbourne's bottom 6, and that's a big stretch. Like Ned McHenry, first round draft pick. Chase Jones, a pick, I think his number pick 7 or 8. He's a fringe player, and Crows have just got it wrong year after year at the draft table, and that's going to cost your club in the long run. You can't keep trading for players.
And especially when it's, you're sitting between that, kind of that 6th and 14th position, every choice makes it so much harder. It's so much more important because you're not getting the cream of the crop that everyone's talked about and can come straight in and play AFL. It is a bit of a gamble, but you've got to do your homework and you've got to sit there and go, rightio, we've got to really think, okay, what about this player in 2, 3, 4, 5 years? So, it's a tough one, but, I think, the Crows at the moment, and, I think it was at the start of the year they signed their coach.
Yeah, they did. Yep. Matty Nix again. So I've just got a bit of a stat sheet here. So the Crows have made 10 top 10 draft selections in the first round since 2016. They've been Jordan Gallucci. You can cross that one out. Not on the list anymore. Darcy Fogarty. The pick after him was Charlie Curnow, though.
Okay.
So then Chase Jones, Ned McHenry, Fisher Mackesy, not even on the list anymore. Riley Thilthorpe can't get on the park. Luke Pedler playing Sandful. Josh Rochelle, maybe tick. Max Michaelani, big tick. Dan Curtin, he might be back in Western Australia in a couple of years' time. So that's their first round draft picks over the last 10 years. And you could probably only give, I reckon, Josh Rochelle, and that's a fringe tick at best, and Darcy Fogarty. But I bet the Crows would much rather have Charlie Curnow up forward rather than Darcy Fogarty.
So Charlie, I think you said Charlie Cameron before, but Charlie Curnow was behind Fogarty.
Yes, sorry, yeah. Charlie Curnow was the pick after Darcy Fogarty.
I think that makes it a bit different between, nothing against Charlie Cameron, but Charlie Cameron and Curnow, a bit different in, just even in size and presence. So, gee, he would have ruled Adelaide.
Yeah, yep. So that just goes to show how, clubs are always going to make mistakes at the draft table, but to get it wrong so many times over 10 years, that's where the Crows has gone wrong, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, there you go. And, you see a lot of it, and, you want to see both the teams firing them. We'll get to Port Adelaide a little later on playing this weekend, but they're pretty much in the same boat. They've probably got a better list, but they're nowhere near as consistent. So Adelaide at the moment, it's that water in Adelaide. It's that West End, that West End. Get off the West End and get into something half decent.
But just on that game, Big Nank, I thought he was best on ground in that one. Young Strawny, I actually thought he did a good job until he went off, and then they had to put Chris Burgess in the ruck, and Nank just went to absolute town on him. And well done to the Tigers. Looking forward to seeing them in action this week for Dusty's 300th. Friday night footy, Brisbane 114, just teaching the Bulldogs an absolute lesson in this one. And I tell you what, beware the sleeping lion.
Yeah, I like it. That should be their catch cry for because it's hard, isn't it? Because you sit there and go, okay, finally they've started getting a bit of the ball, but is it because, don't forget, the Bulldogs had a truckload of injuries, so it wasn't like they were beating a top 4 team that were in any form of good nick. Their whole 4 line's gone. Yeah. So I even think at one stage they nearly had the same or even more inside 50. So they were getting the ball and they just couldn't convert and score. So, yeah, but, the Lions, you look at, their defensive play were great. You started getting a lot of run too from Neil and these guys. And then, when you have Danaher, Cameron and these blokes kicking a couple each, they're up and about. And, they got a game this weekend that you'd think they should get over the line, and as you say, then they're starting to peg back. They are a game behind everyone, and they're still sitting, 13th. But you give them another 4 points, and they're pretty much just half a game outside the 8. So, yeah, you're right. They've just got to make it there.
And nice to see Eric Hipwood finally get his act together. Played a 4-quarter game, which you could probably say he hasn't done for even 2 years. Even when Brisbane were flying last year, he'd come into games and then he'd drift out, but he played on the edge on Friday night and he was, throwing his body. There's not much of him. He looks like a tall supermodel and not a male one either, but at times. But he played on the edge. If someone was in front of him, he was running into him. And I think that's when him and Joe Danaher play the best footy is play a little bit angry. Bontempelli tagged out of the game, had to go forward in the end because he couldn't get his hand on it. We've been calling for it all year, the return of the tagger, and now it seems like the AFL switched on.
Yeah, well, we've seen it a couple of times this weekend where they even, went to the extent of who was tagging Dacos, and he come off the ground with him and went back on with the ground with him. No matter where he went on and off, and that was like the old school. Dacos tried to catch him out and pretended to go off and ran back on. The guy would come off. That's what we love. That's the battle. As long as they're not interfering in the actual, the art of playing football, the old bake style or Crawley or any of those players. But, it was a good win by the Lions, and it has put them back on the map, absolutely.
Now, Saturday, another tip gone wrong for the Hawks. I think they lose, tip against them, and they win. But it was a very important win for their footy club, 12-13-85 over GWS, 12-7-79. They're playing some unbelievable football right now, and he's one of my favourites. He's a South Australian boy, Will Day. You watch him. He's got the size and the presence of a young Bontempelli, and I'm calling it now. He's going to win a Brownlow in 5 years' time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he is that good.
Look, I love this game. It had everything you wanted in it. It had high pressure. You had Green who got smacked, and then plenty of pressure around the footy. The only thing that I thought the last 30 seconds or the last minute really didn't really end the way it should have ended. I thought
on the game a
bit. Absolutely. Ginnivan's free kick, was it there? Maybe. Newcomb's one, was it there? I don't think so. I reckon he threw his head back, and then the actual bump behind play, it was there, but at the same time, it wouldn't have happened if Newcomb hadn't been given his free kick for throwing his head back. So as much as you love the Hawks winning and everything that goes with it, I just thought, again, I just don't want to see it finish like that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the AFL public completely agree with you on that one. But after starting the season as one of I think they were premiership favourites 2 or 3 rounds in, GWS just seem like a middle-of-the-pack side right now. That's so much like those other teams from 6 to 10 at the start were saying they're so even all across the ground, but now they're just not getting enough from their more littler-known players. You can still rely on your Sam Taylors, on your Whitfields, but with Cornelio, with Kelly out, who's standing up?
And this is the issue with these teams. You look at Richmond when they were up and running, you look at Collingwood last year, when you have faith and confidence, all those players have faith and confidence in running, thinking, you know what, somebody's going to be there. Something's going to happen. It doesn't matter. We understand how we play. And at the moment, I've said it a couple of times, as soon as GWS looks and there's no one there, you automatically stop running. So that orange tsunami stops. You can see it in moments.
Yeah.
And you see it going, and then you only need one of them to drop off a little bit, just not have that little bit of confidence, just think, geez, I better follow my man. I just got to look, even though we've got the ball, just in case we do turn it over, I've got to start looking back a bit. So that's what makes it break down. And that's when, unfortunately, players look slow, they look lazy, they don't look like they're sticking to the team things, because if just in their mind think, okay, if this does get turned over, what do I do? Where if you're up and about, you don't think about that. You think, like Richmond when they won the 3 flags, they just ran. They just ran forward. They just
pushed the ball
kicked
forward at every opportunity.
Every opportunity. And that's what the Tsunami want to do. But, yeah, they do. They look like as you say, I don't even know if they'll make the 8.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. There's only, 10 games left, 11 games left.
And that is that middle of the pack. They need Cornelio back. I didn't realise how important he was to that side. I think he's just that cool head. Sometimes they want to go, but then if you're going to play that rebound 50 style, it has to be balls to the wall. It has to be. You can't play it half-fast. Otherwise, you get caught on the rebound so quickly.
Yep. No, it's all in or nothing. And that's the hardest thing with this game is that, and, it's a pretty hard to have a second game plan when it's balls and all or nothing.
Yeah.
Exactly
Because
it's like, okay, how do we tell, especially coming from the bench, that, no, it's a certain time of the game, let's go into the other game plan.
Yep.
Because you've got to tell 18 blokes that are getting ready to go balls and all, and then suddenly you don't want anything from them. So it's a tough market they're in at the moment. But I reckon the week off would have been really good for them.
Yeah, it's got to be. Now, next game, join in the chorus. North Melbourne 11-8-74, defeating West Coast 8-17-65. Bad kicking is bad football for West Coast. Unfortunately, I think this one goes to show in his first year, Harley Reid is already the most important player at West Coast. They just look extremely one-paced around stoppages. Sheed, Gaff, where's the breakaway speed there? But tell you one guy who had breakaway speed. It was big Tristan Jerry chasing Liam Ryan out the midfield. And as I was watching, I was like, I've seen this before somewhere. So put a movie on that night, Spide, and see if you can recognise where this is from.
Right here.
I believe that's Mr. Gilmore.
I believe that jacket belongs to Mr. Gilmore right at the end of
Gilmore
with the big man chasing him down the golf green.
Yeah, that's right.
If anything's going to get you up and about, it's got to be your big ruckman going on a 70-metre chase, probably the quickest bloke in the ground just to put pressure on. And it's moments like that win your games of football.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it was fantastic. You love those moments, and Clark will make something massive out of that because that's what football clubs are built on. But when you kick 17 points as well, you can't expect to win. You know, they made a huge comeback, and, I thought they were going to win all money. I thought, you little ripper. But again, a couple of decisions there. You sit there and go, well, North Melbourne probably deserved to win it. West Coast, it could have gone either way. It should have gone either way. But, it was good for North Melbourne to win. And as you say, like, Harley Reid, he can continue now to just put a couple of extra zeros on. Obviously his manager, when he's ready to sign, will float the idea that there's all these Melbourne clubs after him, which they will be. Yeah. But he can just float the idea because it's
17 clubs will be after him. I reckon.
Yeah, so he can add another zero. But there's a lot of hype around Yo too coming back or going to Melbourne, and there's
LDU.
a lot of there's a lot of other players getting a bit of hype as well. So yeah, I want North Melbourne to win, but something says inside of me I know it's not great for North Melbourne, but it's always nice to have someone go through haven't won a game all year. You got to pick on someone like this. It happens in local footy all the time, and you don't see it that often in the AFL. So, I know the North supporters wouldn't like it, but it just gives us something more to have a bit of a laugh at.
Sounds like you might have had some money on that North Melbourne not to win a game for the top sport. The way you're talking.
Well, it was at 10-1 at one stage, so it was good odds. But as I said, I hope they get out and they enjoy it. I hope they drunk the plane dry all the way from Perth all the way back. So
surely they would have. Now, next game, geez, what a shit game this was. And, 7-9-51 defeating Gold Coast, 7-6-48. Another game probably decided very late by a very.
It was there 100%.
Mate, take off your St Kilda glasses. The
Okay.
AFL come out and said, no way.
Look, okay, I'll take off my glasses. It was never there. Now put them back on. I can't believe you didn't see it. How blatant was it? Mac Andrew holding back King, just don't do it. You're not allowed to do it, even if you are 60 metres off the ball.
Even if Max King initiated it first, but we'll forget about that.
We won't worry about any of that. Finally, the Saints have got 2 wins in a row. Can they make it 3? But as you say, I was watching it. It's just horrible. There's nothing exciting to watch. And, the Gold Coast Suns, and we know the plan that's what St Kilda try and do. And it was good to see the 2 King boys out there. They both kicked a couple each. I had them for 3+ each, but come on. They kicked a score that doesn't deserve 3+ each. I thought it would have been a couple more, but, unfortunately, you gone are the days you get to 74. First to 74 beats St Kilda. First to 54, you can win now. So, it's just, we want to see high-scoring games. That's what you want to see. And the Suns are normally a very high-scoring game. So when you look at it, it's remarkable that St Kilda can hold sides to low scores. Doesn't matter how they do it.
I found it funny in the press conference, and Dimmer's come in, obviously fuming. He's like, he's talking about negative football, and Ross Lyons got in his press conference and said, actually, it was the Suns that were kicking back more and more. And so I just want to look at the scores all year, Ross. And history tells you a little bit about that, but
they couldn't get past it. So Rossi's correct.
Technically
he's correct.
You can't kick forward when 18 players behind the ball. But I was like this with Freo a couple of years ago, and it's just if I'm a Saints fan right now, we're not making finals. Why would I attend a game when it's going to be more likely a soccer scoreline than an AFL one?
Yeah, and I think, what you want? You want to see, the personalities of a lot of these young kids.
Yeah.
What do they do? Wanganeen, Malura, running off the half back. You want to see
line up forward.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got Mitch Owens. I'd put him in the middle, a tall midfielder. He's a big unit. Like there's no
athletic as anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Not even as a ruckman. As a tall midfielder. Just give him a go around the stoppages. Just try something a little bit different. As you say, you're not playing finals. Let's see what these guys can do in a couple of different positions and try and light it up. Because we know King can get his hand on it and get enough of the ball. We know what Membry can do. We know what Jack Steele and Crouch and these guys can do. Rowan Marshall's probably still in the best form of the club. It's going to be a tough All-Australian ruckman this year, I reckon. It's going to be a hard one to pick.
You touched on Brad Crouch there. He's got 110 possessions in the VFL over the last 3 weeks alone and still can't get into the St Kilda side. So,
which is mad.
Absolutely ridiculous, if you ask me. So obviously he's pissed off Ross at some way or another over the preseason, I think. Marcus Windhager, great job on Touk Miller, though, I will say that. Shut him down. Touk just wasn't an influence whatsoever. Now, next game, Sydney 16-16, 112, defeated Geelong 12-10, 82. Swans are that good. They just said to the Cats, all right, we'll give you a 5-goal head start, then we'll start trying, and still absolutely run over the top of them.
How does that happen? Like, that was unbelievable. Like, I was watching that, and you go, nah, they're done. The Cats are home, finally. Like, the Swans, we thought, they've had a very, very good year, but you know what? You're always going to drop one at one stage. So, good on them. And then suddenly, just their belief at quarter time, and it's not like, don't go and kick 6 straight up, just kick 2.
Yeah.
And after we get 2, let's try and kick another one. And then let's just kick another one. And then suddenly they're in front, and then suddenly they're 4 goals, 5 goals in front. It was unbelievable. But the goal of the year has to go to, was it Hayward or Warner, who took off? They kicked it into the middle of the, just down in front when he took on the 2 players. Chad Warner, and bolted forward. That is proper hard-running football. And, he got a lucky bounce, but you know what? He had a crack, and that was unbelievable. Great goal. Great vision just to put it out in front.
I think this one here is an absolute warning to the competition. So at quarter time, Sydney had 3 points. In 3 quarters, they scored 109 points against Geelong, who were third before this. If that's not a warning sign to the competition, I don't know what is, mate.
109 points in 3 quarters.
In 3 quarters of footy.
Yeah. And as I mentioned, you just can't, you just can't follow them all.
No.
Just they're hard running. But because they're all like that, they challenge themselves every game.
Yeah.
They have a game within themselves, I reckon.
Yeah.
To see who can run harder and clock up more Ks and get more touches. And I think it's a game within a game, which just adds to their game.
Exactly right. And it's hard to imagine that Errol Goulden, it's been insane. He's the forgotten man of this Sydney Swans, the Sydney midfield with Heaney and Warner. Errol Goulden, who was, second or third in the Brownlow last year, he's flying under the radar somehow and is the clear best on ground on the weekend. And if he's still got improvement to go in his game, this Sydney side, I think the way they're playing right now, it's the best side we've seen in that I can remember in probably the last 10 or 15 years. Yeah,
I reckon we'll get to the premierships odds after the games, but you're right. And, even I found this fascinating that the 2 coaches had coached exactly the same amount of years. Yeah. They both come into the system together. They both coached 13 years. Out of those 13 years, both of them made finals 11 times. So it was such a really good stat. And 2 different clubs, obviously as well, and 2 different game styles, and bringing people in and out of their club. And then one club just, 100, as you say, over 100 points in 3 quarters of footy, just playing around.
I bet St Kilda fans are looking at that just saying, oh, why us?
Yeah.
Sunday night. I didn't mind a Sunday night fixture over the long weekend. Carlton 15-6, 96 defeated Essendon 9-16-70. Both coaches listened to us last week and put the Mackay brothers on each other, which was nice. But 15-6 to 9-16. On paper, you think Essendon were horrible in front of goal. But if you look where Carlton shots were from, you look where Essendon shots were from, and that tells you all you need to know. Carlton players kicking it probably within 30 metres. Essendon's, they haven't shot 40 metres on the boundary.
Yeah, and I think the result went the right way. The Bombers, they're still in good nick, and it's so hard, isn't it? Because you got to give Carlton credit, but then we go, they only beat the Bombers, but the Bombers are still second, third. So when do you start thinking of the clubs that you want Carlton to beat? Outside of themselves, because you go to the top of the ladder, Sydney Swans freakish, but, Essendon, Port Adelaide, Geelong, Collingwood, I reckon they'd match up fine against all of those.
Yeah, I think it's Sydney right now in daylight, if you look at the rest of the ladder, and then it's so even after that.
Yeah, and that's going to play out over the next 10 weeks, but, it was just, again, especially, for the Bombers, one of those ones that they've really just got to try and get back on track and try and get a couple of wins, but they just fall away really quickly. If their forward line aren't kicking those goals, they just really seem to struggle. Yeah,
and you look at this one, and the thing I loved about this is so often Carlton have needed huge games from Cripps and huge games from Sam Walsh, and then that gets them over the line. In this one here, Cripps and Walsh, they were probably nearly the worst games of the year, and it was Hewitt, it was Newman standing up, those underrated midfielders who get their 20 each week, but will then go and lay 8 or 9 tackles. And that's the difference between Carlton probably these last 2 years compared to Carlton of 3 or 4 years ago.
And plus other teams like Adelaide, your Port Adelaide, it's those second string of players, and they often say that's where your premierships won. It's not your top liners. Your top liners, you know what you're going to get week in, week out. But it's that second string, from 15 to 22. What are they going to do to make sure that they, help, secure this premiership? So, I think, as you mentioned, I think Vossi's done a great job. He's got them perfectly set up at the moment. The Mackay brothers, you always want to see that. Unfortunately, the King brothers were at the opposite ends of the ground, but it's just good to see them go head-to-head. So there is actually 2 of them. We can confirm now.
We can finally. Otherwise, it was pretty good CGI by the AFL technical department. But Carlton has found an absolute ripper in Alex Cincotta as a tagger. Obviously, Zach Merritt averaging 29, kept him to 19 and got forward and kicked 2 goals himself. And there's nothing worse as a full-time midfielder when your tagger gets forward and kicks a goal and then comes back to the midfield, talks in your ear, and then just keeps pushing you.
Well, and that's, this is probably the biggest weekend of the tagger we've seen. Yeah. Now, we've seen little bits of it, but this weekend, you go back and you say nearly every game had a tagger, and it just brings a new player into the game. Yeah. Really? It just brings a player that, sometimes might not be, your Bont, your Warner, these guys, but just has got the running capacity and has got the ability to win the footy. But a tagger, what does a tagger do? A tagger takes you to the footy.
Yeah.
So all you got to do is win it. You got to follow the tag. Don't worry, you just follow him. He'll take you to the footy and then just try and win it. So it's actually a good role to play because you're getting dragged along to the footy.
Exactly right. Now, Easter Monday game, big freeze. So much was raised, and it was great to see the costumes. For me personally, I thought Pat Rafter won it for the day. I loved him dressing up as Brian Johnson from ACDC. I'm a huge Brian Johnson fan, but it was the Pies absolutely teaching Melbourne a lesson, 89-51. And for me in this one, I knew what Collingwood would put up week in, week out, regardless of who's on paper. They just put in effort. This said to me more about Melbourne than it did Collingwood. Max Gawn looks like the only player out there who could win a game off his own boot for Melbourne. Dacos, crisp, absolutely superb. But John Noble continues to play well. Christian Petracca, though, why you'd let your golden goose go out there and injure himself again when he's got severe injuries? Melbourne, what are you doing?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it's disappointing to see Petracca. You knew he was hurt, and he's the Rolls Royce. He's one of the best players in the competition. You never want to see that. But, the Pies, they are back. They are, they've still got a lot of injuries. They've got a lot of players to come back in, but they're getting the job done against, we don't know what kind of opposition because Melbourne are just really, they're in the same boat as Adelaide. They're probably worse off than Adelaide.
Yeah.
Because what do you do? Melbourne now, and it was great. The big freeze, fantastic. I absolutely love it as well. I thought, Pat Rafter absolutely won it. I don't think they can all do music. We need to change it up. I don't want it all the same every year. try and think outside the square. Somebody does it next year for sure.
I was thinking Olympics is coming up. So many great Olympians you could have gone as.
Oh, Usain Bolt. Get in the absolutely. Yeah, there's so many great things they can do. So, and especially if you can get a bit of audio, it would have been good. I remember up here they had the anchorman.
Yeah.
Up here when they did that. Classic. Get the anchorman to walk out. So, yeah, look, Big Free's fantastic. But, yeah, Collingwood good. Melbourne, I think this talks more to Melbourne is where do they look at? What do they do? Steve May, we know how good he's been, but is he better off somewhere else? Then you've got, even through the midfield, we know Viney, Clayton Oliver's nowhere near what he was. I watched a bit of vision during the week on one of the footy shows, and he just looked lazy.
Yeah.
Just looked like he wasn't fully committed to the contest how he used to be. That angry Oliver that used to get the ball and
played on the edge.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I think Melbourne have got a lot of soul searching to do, and we thought it might not have happened this way, but it all stems from pre-season.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's what it comes down to, and they look disconnected as a side right now. And I've got a question for you coming up in overreaction or spot on, but Melbourne right now, they're not just in danger of missing finals. I think they're in danger of losing the whole era. They could have won 2 or 3 flags during this time. And I can't see him getting better over the next few years. They're right in the middle. If they're going to go deep in finals, it has to be probably this year.
I don't want to declare it, but I wouldn't think they'll be close.
Yeah,
for a year or two.
No,
they've got a lot of.
Yeah,
they've got a lot of players. Not getting any younger. Like even Viney's over 30 now. He can't continue to do it. Gawn, as you mentioned, he's the only one that really stands up week in, week out, being a bit unfair to Viney, I think, and Petracca, but he's out now. May, nearly done. So you probably got about 8 to 9 players. You sit there and go, okay, where they're at with their career, and do you see them a part of the club in 3 or 4 years? Because they've got to. I don't think you'd see them playing finals this year or next year.
No. And who's the next stars coming through for Melbourne? They don't have that lot they did that 4 or 5 years ago where they did have Petrarca and they did have Oliver coming through. So got to move into overreaction or spot on. And kicking it off, pencil the Swans in now for a grand final. Obviously, they're going to finish top 2. No one's going to beat them in finals at the SCG.
The greatest start they've had in 100-odd years. So, yeah, I think so. I think, the one thing about Sydney is you're going to get they're the meat and 3 veg, aren't they? You're going to get the same every time you rock up, and they're going to be hard to beat. They'll finish in the top 4. They just won't let themselves go from there. Yep. It's a matter of them just getting those couple of wins on those big days. They will be home finals, so they'll definitely have an advantage there. They're getting 45,000 of the game every weekend. So, yeah, if I was a Swans supporter, I'd be trying to find early grand final tickets where you can get them under $1,000.
And join up to be a member of 17 other clubs just to try and get their tickets.
Yeah.
Like maybe someone like a Brisbane or a GWS. So, and now this one here, it's not an overreaction or spot on, but who's under more pressure right now as a coach? Matty Nix or Simon Goodwin?
Yeah, look, good question. Don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know, because I'd normally jump straight to Simon Goodwin. Mm-hmm. That's me, but then I don't know how ruthless the Adelaide media can be. Very. I don't know if he's been under the pump. Yeah, I think, and Goodwin's been there for a long period of time. Roosie set him up, and he's been there. He's had a good chunk, and as you say, I think they've under-delivered a bit. They only won the flag that COVID year in 2020 I think it was 2020 over in Perth. Yep. And they probably have underachieved. Because they haven't lost a grand final. Mm. They just haven't made them.
Straight sets last year.
Yeah. I think Goodwin's probably under more pressure.
Yep, I fully agree. I look at both lists, and I think that's actually another reason why Matty Nix is under pressure himself. I mean, the recruiting was shocking probably 5 years before he did get there, but since then, he's probably got it more right than wrong. Simon Goodwin, though, he's got this list that, on paper, should be top 4 at least. Oh,
yeah, and that's what gets me every weekend. I'm sick of back in Melbourne.
Yeah.
Because I look at them on paper and I go, oh, my God, even Spargo and these guys, you can reel them all off and you go, these guys are A-graders.
Yeah, or they're your role players that'll then make your likes of your Petrarca, of your Olivers, of your Max Gawn, of your Viney's, May, Lever. And it's clear as anything right now, without Jake Lever, Stephen May is a D-grade backman.
Yep. And don't forget their forwards. Yeah, they've still got good enough forwards, but still, again, inconsistent.
Yep. Fully agree, mate. Now, time for you to fire up, and I reckon we might be going back to the club we might have just spoken about here.
It's that time of the week where we find out what's been grinding the big fella's gears. It's time for Spider Bites.
Yeah, I think we don't want to kick the boot into Melbourne too much, but we're going to again. So if you're a D supporter, you can switch it off. You can turn it down for the next minute and a half, because I got to have a crack at the doctors of the Melbourne Football Club. And I don't care if Petracca says he's good enough to go back on, but surely as a doctor, you're going to know that he's got some form of maybe a cracked rib. He had 4 of them, broken ribs, a lacerated spleen. You might think, okay, there's something a little bit harm here, and of course he had a small puncture in his lung as well. And to allow him to go back on, a bloke like that, we often talk about head injuries and CTE and not allowed to do this and not allowed to do that. It is doctor there. I don't know whose call it is. Is it the doctor? It's got to be the doctor. That's the end. That's the end result. But when you got a player in so much pain and he's running up and down the boundary and then you see him go on, the only thing I'm happy for is the fact that no player on the opposition knew that he'd come off with a massive injury, because
Maynard would have been licking his lips.
10 years ago, imagine Byron Pickett would have broken another 4 on the other side, just thinking it might have been that side. But that puts a player at total risk. And not only a player at total risk, if he does get hip and shoulder, if he does go into another big collision and does get injured worse, the players that are around him, the umpires in that situation, the people watching at home, his parents, his family. I just think, there's a duty of care, and the doctors have to get a lot better. And I know you can't do this, and it should have been the first time in AFL history when an AFL or a club doctor has been suspended.
Yes.
I would have suspended him for a month and said, you can't do that. It's a duty of care to all of our players. And Petracca is always going to say, I want to go back on. I want to go back on. I don't want to come up. All players do that. But at some stage, you just sit there and go, no. And then by the end of the game, what's he? He's in hospital.
Yeah. And it's not minor injuries. This is big. Surely you take a look at that collision. You could see the pain he was in on the bench when he come off. You see that. And not just only that, he's their golden goose. You're not going deep in finals without Christian Petracca. Who cares about this game? You put him on ice. You do not risk him suffering a season-ending injury after this. It's an absolute joke.
I would have liked to see if they put a block in.
Yep.
Because if they did that, that's even worse.
Yeah.
Because if you can't go out there, as you say, as your golden goose, as your best player, but it's even beyond. It's just any player welfare. It doesn't matter what player it is that if you can't stand there and get tapped on the side, because you're going to get tackled, get roughed up a little bit without a block, you shouldn't be out there.
Fully agree, mate. Absolutely agree. Now, I think we just need to be cheered up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Cheer us up with something.
All right, I've got some odds for you.
Here we go.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money.
Okay, and you know what?
Here we go.
I reckon Tristan must have listened to us last week, because all of a sudden Isaac Keeney's back to Brownlow favourite because he played.
Yeah. Hello. Oh.
So in front on 21 votes at the halfway point of the season, Isaac Keeney, $3.80. Now in second spot, and I reckon he's going to drift further and further, Nick Dacos. We saw him on the weekend, only 14 possessions. The tag went straight to him, and it could barely get near it. So he's at $4. Now, in third place, we have 5 players. Paddy Cripps, $6.75. Caleb Sarong, $14. Noah Anderson, $18. And Zach Merritt, $9.50. And then on 14 votes, we've got Zach Butters at $19. And Max Gawn at $38. And remember, there's Zach Butters, Caleb Sarong, Isaac Heaney, and Noah Anderson. No Noah Anderson, that have an extra game to make up from that, so compared to the rest. So Isaac Heaney has one game extra in front of Nick Dacos, with Dacos having the bye in a couple of weeks. So,
Yeah.
Isaac Heaney right now should be odds on.
Yeah, well, we know, look, the tag is going to start playing a bit of a role, absolutely. But that's going to play, the hardest thing in Sydney is that you can't tag three of their gun midfielders. But at the same time, you can't give three of their gun midfielders three votes every week. So it can work itself out. For me, my money's on Caleb Sarong.
Yep.
I've been off Fremantle for the first half of the year. I took my week off. I've regrouped. I've thought about it. I've looked hard and long into the mirror, and I said, you know what? I reckon Fremantle can play finals. So I think they're, with their dual ruckman and their midfield that they have, I reckon Sarong. And the other one, and I know you didn't have the best game on the weekend, and you've got all money for Cripps. I reckon Welsh has had a better year than Cripps.
He has. He did miss the first 4 games of the season,
Yeah.
though. But since he's played, he's got more votes than Paddy Cripps. So he's on 13 votes and didn't play the first 4 games of the season. So
That's unbelievable, isn't it?
yeah, absolutely. And just looking at Caleb Sarong, his stats so far this year: 32 disposals a game, 15.3 kicks, 8 clearances, 6 tackles, and he's leading the year in AFL fantasy points as well. So Caleb Sarong, he's just always around the ball. So we know umpires love that.
Good value.
Doesn't kick enough goals for me, like Heaney.
Yeah, I understand. But you know what? He's still got the second half of the season to go. You never know, but they don't need to. I know the umpires do like it, but at the end too, when you're in and under and you're getting the ball and you're doing everything right, you're still seeing through the midfield a lot of times. So my money's for Sarong. The one I've got for you.
Yep.
Can Carlton win the premiership?
No.
Oh, you don't want to think about it?
No. Carlton, they'll get to a big game and they'll be up by 30 points at quarter time and they'll choke. We've ever seen that happen before. Last year.
Come on. You reckon?
Yeah, no, they can't win it. I can see them playing, but I can't see anyone beating Sydney the way they're playing right now. I just look at that midfield and the Carlton midfield is good, but Sam Walsh is the only one with breakaway speed. They're big, they're strong, but that Sydney midfield right now, mate, they're all 3 are line breakers. All 3 are elite kicks. Sydney's forward line, probably where it falls down, but you're seeing the likes of Joe and Marty kick 2 and 3s each week, just through the elite kicking of his midfielders. And then Tom Papley kicked 4 on the weekend. And if one doesn't get you, someone else is going to. And I just see.
Who do you reckon they'll play? Halfway, right? We're halfway through the year. What is the one team you reckon who will face Sydney? We're halfway through the year.
If Collingwood get their players back, for me, they're the only ones who can put up a serious challenge against Sydney.
Okay. All right. Okay, I thought Carlton were pretty good odds. What about, the Coleman? Who will win the Coleman?
Charlie Curnow will win it, I still feel. He just gets enough shots inside 50. Maybe I'd like to see King win it from the Suns, like Benny King, but I think Gold Coast might fall away in the last half of the year, unfortunately.
I'm going the other way. I reckon King will. I don't reckon the Gold Coast will fall apart. I reckon Dimmer's too smart for that. I don't know if they'll play finals. I know there's probably 6 games they should win towards the end of the year, which will give them enough wins to be very, very close. That will put them on, 17, 13 wins. So it will be close, but I reckon he'll kick enough goals.
And Rising Star, are you going with Wardlaw or McKercher? Or I'm thinking Darcy Wilson from the Saints. I think he's been superb for them this year.
If I had a couple, I was going Ollie from Geelong.
Ollie Dempsey?
Yeah.
He's
had a couple of really good games, but he's played some really good roles as well.
Yeah. And let's not forget, he's probably playing more of a role. He's in that midfield each week up against the best players in the competition. He's not playing that wing or that forward pocket or that back flank, which just inflates your stats. We've seen it all year. You don't man up on a player at all. You just get the ball and go. Ollie Dempsey, he has been fantastic. I love Darcy Wilson and what he's brought to the Saints this year. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of those Saints players they do inflate their stats a bit with the amount they kick sideways and play on and handball sideways. So, Ollie Dempsey's a very good choice. I don't mind that at all.
No, that's my choice, so don't take it.
I won't, mate. Got to jump into this week's games, though. And it's your mob, the Saints, up against the Brisbane Lions at the Gabba. Do you give St Kilda any chance at all?
I really want to, but I don't. I can't. I'm going to go there and just be disappointed again. But I'm going to go there, fly the flag. I'm getting picked up, so at least I can drink and carry on and do what I want to do. But no, I'm going to go there. I don't think not at the Gabba. They do have a good run. The Lions, the Big O on Marshall is going to be a great setup. The two big ruckmen going head to head, and but when you look at just Brisbane have got it at the moment. They've got it back, and Berry, and we're talking about Neil and all that, and Neil and Danaher just got it going. So for me, I wouldn't go past the Lions at home.
There's a few rumours floating around about Charlie Cameron right now, and not playing the best football, and might be looking for a move elsewhere. And he seems like he's just a step off the pace. But the one thing I love last week from the Lions, the Big O getting angry. I thought he was going to kill someone last week. He had someone right up against the crowd and was just barking at him like a rabid dog. And they talked to him after the game. And he seems like he's the nicest guy in the world. So
they need it like that old ad. The Big O's gone mad. He's gone mad. The Big O's gone mad.
But looking forward to that matchup of Marshall and the Big O.
Where's Charlie from? Is Charlie Melbourne?
WA, regional WA. So
Perth. You want to go back to WA?
I think with Sonny Walters on his last legs, I wouldn't be surprised to see Freo make a play, but I think it all depends on how Brisbane go this year.
Yeah. Oh, well, we'll watch over the next couple of weeks, but I reckon they'll probably just make finals, but won't do much damage in there.
Yep, Lions for me in that one. Now, Saturday, no more Thursday night footy. We absolutely hate it. Saturday during the day.
It's a joke.
Bulldogs up against the Dockers. Bulldogs going to this one, pretty strong favourites, which surprises me. I've got the Dockers in this one. I just don't see Bulldogs able to kick a winning score.
Tristan's kidding himself. Topsport.com.au. What are you thinking? How can you not have Fremantle? Yeah, it's in Melbourne, but the Dogs haven't got a forward line.
No.
None of them. There's no one there. They've got big lobby, and lobbies used to be at Fremantle, so Fremantle players would think nothing better than ripping his head off. So I just think, and you look at the other side, Tracy and Amiss have been really good, and I think, Fremantle, and as I said, I've had a good hard look at myself over the last week, and Fremantle haven't been my number one choice, but you can't go past them at the moment. They are in good form. They're running hard. They're using each other. You've talked about it many times about how young and good their midfield is. They've got the two key ruckmen. They've got a lot going on.
Yeah, Jordan Clark off half back this year has just provided so much speed through the middle of the ground. They look to get it into his hands whenever possible. If they can stop Bontempelli, I think they stopped the Bulldogs. We saw it last week. I think Cody Waitman, he's a test for this week as to whether or not he's going to come in. He's another scoring target, but Fremantle's defence has been their key all year. And I think Freo is getting better and better, unfortunately, for the Dogs. And I'm tipping the Dockers.
Yeah, you got to look at the confidence of Cody coming in too, Waitman coming in, because it was a elbow injury.
Yep,
he loves to fly for his marks, coming down, just being able to stop, just that confidence around that injury. Yeah, you don't want to play him in the twos, but you want him in the ones when he's playing good footy, not when he's thinking about his elbow.
Yep. Now Richmond versus Hawthorn, Saturday afternoon, Dusty's 300th. Hopefully he stays on the ground to the end of the game and doesn't do an injury, 5 minutes, or an injury in inverted commas, and just go off the field for the last 5 minutes so he can run down the race. But Dusty, what he's brought to the AFL, I've actually loved the mystery sort of that surrounds him. Doesn't talk much, doesn't get out in the media much. But let's not forget that Brownlow year that he had was probably the best single effort from a player in the last 30 years of footy.
Yeah, as you say, I think the whole mystery that surrounds Dusty, his old man getting deported back to New Zealand, his nana growing up over there in New Zealand, his mum up on the Gold Coast or wherever she is, and just the mystery that surrounds you. You expect him to be riding Harleys and, hanging out with different crew, but he's delivered week in, week out for the Tigers, and to be able to bring up 300 games, 3 premierships, 3 Norm Smith medals, You have to be in the top 3, top 5 players of all time easily. You just can't do that. And, the don't argue, the famous don't argue, the famous haircut. I had a bet with a mate over the weekend, and he said Richmond won't win. That was last week. And he goes, if they do, I'll get a Dusty Martin haircut. So he had to go and get the Dusty Martin haircut for this week. And I'd love to see 60,000 Dusty Martin haircuts at the MCG, because I can still remember the year they beat GWS in the final to put them into the grand final. And I was sitting right behind me here watching it on television. And I reckon I could turn the television down and hear the MCG, and I'm on the Gold Coast. It was unbelievable. So, and that's all off the back of Dusty. Dusty, that grand final in Brisbane, he drew them out.
Yes.
They were gone. They were gone until Dusty just said, you know what, boys, I'm not going to let this go. Come with me.
Back.
Yep, and he did that. So, well done to Dusty. Who knows what happens Monday? He'll probably be retired. We might see him up here on the Gold Coast next year. But, 300, great effort. I'd love Richmond to win. I don't think they will. I'm going to stick with the Hawks. Yep. I reckon Sam Mitchell would love to put a fork in Dusty and say, nah, bad luck, see you later. But I really hope they have a cracking game.
This is going to be packed, an absolutely packed house. And if there's one thing that we know, MCG, packed house, who's going to stand up?
Oh, Dusty. He has to.
I'm calling it now. He's going to get 2 goals in 25, and the Tigers are going to win.
Well, I'll tell you, you'll get a good price for that too.
Yeah,
I think that's actually a really popular multi this weekend.
Yeah,
25, 2 goals, and Richmond for Dusty. Yeah,
it's just set up, and if anyone loves a big stage, we know it's Dusty. He's this quiet. It's actually quite softly. You look at his exterior and you think, look out, but he's very softly spoken. He's the godfather of Trent Cotchin's children, which just goes to show, obviously, how important he is as a man to that club. I'm going the Tigers in this one. I'm all about the sentiment, the sentiment that goes with it. I really, really hope they can get up for Dusty in that one. So I'm going the Tigers. Couple of goals, I reckon.
Yeah, no, I'm sticking with the Hawks.
Now, Saturday night, Adelaide Crows versus Sydney Swans. The line in this one is 14 points. And if Sydney don't cover that line, I've got no idea what's going to happen. So Swans for me in this one, I'm going by 8 or 9 goals.
I think they'll cover that by half time because, the first half, the first quarter, they'll give Adelaide probably an 8-goal start. So we gave Geelong a 5. We'll give you guys an 8, and we'll give all the punters something to cheer and think about. But who's Adelaide's best tagger? Probably Crouch, or Keys.
Crouch is out for the year. Keys will be
Keys. So
who does Keys go on? Which one of the 3?
Well, I don't know what they do, but can they make another 2 of them?
Nick's is in the cloning office down in Adelaide right now.
He's in the uni lab of Adelaide Uni saying we need another 2 of these players because you just can't keep up. Who would you go? You just don't know. Who would you, out of those 3, who would you tag?
I'm going Errol Golden just because he's the one who will break the lines the most, and his kicking is probably as good as the other ones are. But his kicking is just that it can break that line a little bit further. But what gets me in this one is Adelaide Oval quite big. I think it's the second biggest oval behind the MCG. And Adelaide's midfield has been criticised all year for being one-paced. And that is a complete opposite to this Sydney midfield, which is breakneck speed. So I'm going the Swans in this one, and the midfield I reckon you could all 3, Golden, Heaney and Warner, will all get 25 plus.
Well, we'll wait up because I've got my multi coming up and it might sit in that kind of space. So for me, but see, you tagged Golden and you spoke about that, but watch him the other day. He got the ball, 1 step, bang, 52-metre goal.
That's what I mean.
He had 1 step.
Yeah, ability to break the lines, and it's just that lethal left foot. And so many of these kids have come from the Sydney Academy, which has been great up there for Sydney. I reckon this one might actually get messy at Adelaide Oval.
Frightening.
Yep. Now, Sunday, North Melbourne versus Collingwood. North looking for their second win of the year. I don't see it happening.
No, I've got all their young guns. Their best players at the moment, or the most consistent, all their young guns, the ones that are out there, and they just won't be able to keep up. The Pies, way too good, way too consistent. They found their little mojo. They'll run over North. And as I mentioned right at the top of the show, I really hope that North Melbourne run out at .05 to know that they had a crack last weekend and celebrated their victory. But, yeah, the Pies for me.
Yep, Luke Davis-Uniacke in outstanding form for North, but I think that is going to be too little, too few. Good to see Nick Larkey last weekend get on the end of a few, but he's had a pretty ordinary year, and other than him, I don't see him kicking a winning score against the Pies.
The hardest thing is he's had an ordinary year, but so has North Melbourne.
Yep.
The delivery hasn't been great. Most of the ball's been played in their back half. Their back line's getting a lot of the footy, and it's just not getting to the forward line quick enough. And when you face the Pies, you've got Darcy Moore and a couple of others, you sit there and go, my weekend's not going to get any easier.
And the best thing the Pies do is they play that team defence really well. There's usually no weak links, and that's what won them the grand final last year. Now, Sunday is what I see as the closest thing to a 50-50 game all round. GWS up against Port Adelaide in Sydney. GWS sitting 8th right now, which is just, it seems ridiculous after their start to the year. Port Adelaide is sitting 4th. Connor Rosie likely to be back in for Port Adelaide. I'm going Port Adelaide in this one.
I know. Rosie back makes a big difference. I think the week off too, but I'm surprised Port Adelaide are 4th.
Yeah, me too.
Well, they come out really well, and they've been hot and cold the last month or two, and I just think for me, this is a character test for both teams. They both have to win this.
Yep.
If they both want to play finals, they both should be beating each other, and that's why it is probably the most important game over the weekend.
Yeah,
because the Giants lose this and they lose that faith in the tsunami, teams are going to start, and they have got that already. They're going to start to go, okay, fall back in their shell. Port Adelaide, on the other case, lose this. They'll nearly swap spots with the Giants, and then they'll be only just ticking on the edge of the 8. So, a hard one to pick. I'm going to go against you. I'm going to go with the Giants.
Yep.
I reckon the Giants, tsunami. I know what the Port Adelaide midfield can do, but I'm thinking more about the half-backs and the back line. Like the Port Adelaide forwards, I don't think chase and run as hard as what the backs of the Giants can do. Yep. And I'm just going to stick with the half-backs of the Giants being able to create that wave.
Yeah, we look at the ladder right now. So Port Adelaide are 4th. Melbourne are 10th. There's one game separating 4th to 10th. And all these big losses, like you see in Melbourne, when they've lost, they've been blown out the water. That's an extra game now. They've got the 5th worst percentage in the league at the moment. That's an extra game. So it's not just winning and losing games. It's at least keeping that margin close. I mean, look at Fremantle. I think they've got the 2nd best percentage in the league behind Sydney. If it comes down to it, that's just going to be super important. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I was just looking at that then. There's only, there's no side under 100 in the top 8.
Yeah.
And, and then, Melbourne's on 100.
Yeah.
So, it is. And, even if you look down at Brisbane's sitting 13th, but they've still got a game to play. So, really, they play that. They're still sitting, 26 points just outside the 8. No, it's going to be close. Even the Saints 2 games out, but their percentage, as you say, so they're 3 games out. So, you got no hope. So, absolutely, that percentage plays a huge role.
Yeah, Port for me in that one. They need to sort their forward line out ASAP. I don't know what they can do, whether they even just go Jason Horne-Francis, you're a forward for the rest of the year, and play that dusty one-on-one role. You're going to lose him through the midfield, but you still have Butters, Rosé, Wines in there. Yeah. So, it's still, you are robbing Peter to pay Paul, but at the same time, if you can put... You're putting Paul somewhere else, and it works.
Yeah, and you need that. You need that focal point up forward. You have to. They consistently need. I don't think Charlie Dixon's anywhere near what he should be. No. It'd be interesting what he does at the end of this year. Try and get his body right, get another year or two. But even the last year, the last couple of years, he looks older and slower.
Yep. could call him TtMuP&x, in for one, out for three. But anyways, I think we better get into this.
I didn't want to.
When you want 35 years of experience in your pocket, there's only one place to bet. Top Sport, the home of sport and racing. With a streamlined interface, live chat functionality, stronger security, and enhanced betting odds, the re-engineered Top Sport app provides a truly top betting experience. Download the app today. Top Sport. Feel the excitement. Chances are you're about to lose. For free and confidential support, call 1-800-858-858 or visit gamblinghelponline.org.au.
Alrighty, here we go. Trying to get back on the winners list. One leg again cost me last weekend. Bloody North Melbourne. But going to get into this week's and kicking off with the Brisbane and Saints game. And of course, I'm just going the line. So the total points, and that's under 160.5. I can't see.
No.
I look at this one, and if Brisbane score 100, there's no way St Kilda are kicking 60 points. So it'll be well and truly under 160.5. Next one is Richmond at the line. So Richmond with a 13.5-point head start. I don't see them getting blown out of the water, especially in Dusty's 300th. I've got Sydney at the line, which is 17 points.
That's ridiculous.
So Sydney at the line, and then Collingwood to win, mate, and that'll give you $7.75.
See, I love that. I'm going, for me, I've got two, and I'm going at the line too, but I've just gone a little bit differently. I thought all at the line, go the Lions at the line.
Yep.
Fremantle at the line.
Yep.
And also the Giants at the line, and that will give you $6.85. That's off three solid bets, I reckon.
That is pretty good. Now,
but my favourite one, favourite.
Yeah, here
you want to go first? Okay.
You go.
This is called my Sydney shellacking. The shellacking by the Swans. Sydney. And this is the only part I'm nervous at, and you can take it either way, but I'm going Sydney 1-39.
Yep.
Because you know what? They could win 40 plus. But it's in Adelaide, so I'm giving Adelaide a little bit of respect.
It is.
But I still reckon Papley and Hayward will kick 2 plus.
Yep.
And Heaney and Golden 25 plus.
Yes.
And that will give you over 13.40.
Ooh, I like that.
That's a good bet. You know, if you think Sydney are going to absolutely shellac them, well, you can go 40 plus, and that will give you roughly around the same, a little bit more. But, yeah, I think that's a good bet.
Yeah, I think in this one, really interested to see what Adelaide Crows do at selection. I think in this one, they're not going to make finals now. They just got to give their young kids a chance. We saw Billy Dowling. The other week in the Sandville, he got 40 and 4 goals and didn't get selected in the main side after the Crows lost a game. He played last week. What did he get? 21, kicked a goal late, a very important goal. They're just not selecting. They just need to give their kids a go.
I think sides have to give their kids a go. If you're not performing at the top level, you've got to. And like I remember back in the day, if you didn't perform, you were out. There was no mucking around. It was. You're gone. You know, they'd make 3-4 changes every week, guaranteed. If you're not getting the ball, bad luck, and you knew it. As soon as you walked off that ground, you thought, yeah, I'm in the two. Playing twos this week. Jesus, where are the twos playing again? You're just like, but it kept you honest and kept you onto your toes because you knew that this coach, he'll drop you.
Yeah, exactly right. Now, questions without notice, mate. Do you want to kick us off this week?
Yep. Watching a few of the close games over the weekend, should former players be offered bonuses to become umpires?
I would like to. I reckon they've got such a better understanding of the game at the highest level. I mean, I think there's two umpiring at the moment. Jordan Bannister, I reckon, used to play for the Blues. Might be one. But I think you need to. Like, at the moment, the best thing they could do is go back to three umpires, because 4 is picking up so many of these dinky kicks we saw off the ball, like against Max King. No one would have been watching that if they had 3 umpires. And stuff like that doesn't need to be called. Let the boys play. Let the forwards belt the backmen behind play. Let the backmen hang on a little bit. It's just
who cares? It's nowhere near the ball.
No.
It's nowhere near the ball.
And if the forward wants to turn around and give it, a little bit of a kidney punch and then lead, it'll get picked up on match review. But you get a free kick. You get a free mark.
Yeah, should you be allowed to? Yeah, that is a good point. Allowing him just, you know what, if the ball's not within 50 metres, who cares?
Yeah. Now, I do agree with that, with getting ex-players in, because at the moment, I hate to say it, I think the umpiring this year has been the worst it's been at least in the last 10 or 15 years.
It's because we just scrutinise everything. But we just scrutinise everything too.
But I think
everything's shown 100 times. And
they're getting different directions each week, though. It's like, oh, this week we're going to try and focus on this and we're cutting this out. But now, if you turn this person 360, it's a free kick, whereas 2 weeks ago it wasn't. I think the umpires aren't getting clear enough instructions. It just needs to be set for a year instead of changing mid-season as well, a lot of these free kicks.
Yeah, totally agree. But I'd like to see a couple of former players be a part of it.
Yeah. Now, I've got a very interesting one for you. Completely not football related again. So
that's good. I got one of those too.
Okay. Let's say 100 fourth graders come at you at once. How many of them do you reckon you could take before falling down?
Oh, now or 20 years ago?
Yeah.
Oh,
A bunch of little ankle biters come at you and try and take you down. How many of them do you reckon you can take before?
I used to love doing that whenever we did a clinic. Okay, so say I was at the Saints, we did a clinic, and we're doing a little drill here, and then next in line is Stuart Lowe or Robert Harvey or Nick Rewalt, whoever it was.
Yeah,
I'd go, rightio, next group you got to go over there with Nick Rewalt, but first one to tackle him to the ground, and you just see 30 kids just absolutely sprint, screaming, and then he looks at me and he's like, he knows what I've told him. Yeah. Oh, you bastard! And he runs off.
Kid dives into his knee and does his ACL. Yeah. Brilliantly.
Oh, yeah, there's nothing. It's like a tsunami when they run.
I heard on a podcast someone talk about this and said, best thing I could do be back into a toilet stall and just start kicking.
Yeah, absolutely. Or say, oh, Mr. Whippy.
Yeah. One to finish.
Last one.
Yep.
Last one. When you cook toast,
yes,
does it have to have black on it, or is it dark brown, or is it just microwave bread?
It's got to have a bit of brown.
It's got to be black.
You reckon?
Yeah, like if you're putting Vegemite on it, you shouldn't be able to really notice the Vegemite. That's what I reckon.
Eh? How do you like your steaks?
Oh, medium rare.
Okay, good man.
Even rare.
If you good. If you said well done there, this podcast would have ended.
No, I'd never say that. But toast, make sure you cook your toast. Don't give me warm bread.
Yep. No, I'm more of a caramel. I like my toast caramel.
No, I want mine to be absolutely bite it and it breaks.
Wow, yuck. It goes everywhere then.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, no, not
so good.
I'll get told
bite
off
it and
for not
break.
cleaning up.
Yeah.
Anyway, mate, anything else for this week?
No, that's it. Thank you very much. Have a good week. Enjoy the footy. Only 6 games, but you know what? Should be able to get at least tip 6.
Yep, it'd be perfect if there was Thursday night footy. You could just about have one on every day.
This has been the Third Man Up podcast. To hear more, make sure you follow and subscribe, or find us on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter @Australia Sports.